burl time. Sorry. Yes, hello, welcome to another video. I recorded one to go along with the live streams I've been having such fun doing. It's another piece of false acacia burl, or burr, depending where you come from, or black locust, I think it might be called in America, or Robinia Burr. So I think they're the same thing. Please correct me in the comments below and I'll reply nicely. Right, it's a nice shape. It's the decision is always what's the top and what's the bottom. If I keep this as the top, then it's a more shallow, open sort of bowl. You can see the burr more, and I can keep a natural edge, touch wood, or turn it that way round, where it's already a bowl shape, and you'll see most of the burr inside. You can probably get a deeper bowl, but it won't have the natural edge. The decision is being made a bit for me by this inclusion here. I mean, that probably would turn away, but it does seem to run down quite a bit of that part of the blank. So it might be better to do it that way round, and then I can turn that bit away on the curve. To help put it on the lathe, I've drilled a little hole with a Forstner bit, and that would go at the tailstock end, and then I'll just mount it with a stab center in the middle of this side, and get some rough shaping done on it. What I'm aiming to do is to get the top turned with something that I can grip on. And then there's a chance, although I'm not sure really, there's a chance I might be able to get a core from it. So let's get it on the lathe and get on with it. Right, I've got a step center in the chuck. Saves taking the chuck off each time. Want to put something between centers. And at the tailstock end, I'm going to use the step center, but a narrower one. This one isn't actually a Sorby one, and it's not nearly of the same quality as the Sorby product, but it does the job. So when mounting between centers, I sort of eyeball it, want to give it a little spin, see how balanced it is. But I also want to make sure it's fairly level as well. If I have the top face flat as it is here against the headstock, if that's too much of an angle, then obviously that's going to be lost height. So it takes a few little tries, and that's where the step centers are good. You can sort of hold it reasonably firmly and get the balance of it sorted out. Then when you're turning something with such a lot of bark on it, it's always good practice to remove as much of the loose bark as possible with my special loose bark prying tool. It's not really a screwdriver, honest. And then my enormous bowl gouge, which I've been getting a very nice edge on from my CE wheel setup. I use this one to start with because of that dense, thick metal that it's made from. It's really going to absorb the shocks of the uneven cutting very nicely. Although actually this burr cuts very easily. Some burrs can be very hard, very dusty, but this one is actually quite easy to work with. So it's just some exploratory cuts first, taking a few light passes, sort of seeing what's beneath the bark, and then thinking about the shape, because I'm still not entirely certain at this stage which is going to be the top and the bottom. But as I'm turning it away, it's pretty clear that actually my initial thoughts about having the flat face as the bottom aren't really going to work, mainly because that inclusion seems to go such a long way in it. So I have sort of a rough shape here, and you can see that inclusion there. It does run very deep, so it's actually going to end up being a void in the side of the bowl, and I think that's the best way of preserving as much of this gorgeous wood as possible. So back on with my heavy bowl gouge, really on a blank this side, but it absorbs the shock so much better. But I will get onto a smaller bowl gouge with perhaps a little more refinement to it once I've got the initial shaping done. And there, you know, I keep stopping to check that that occlusion isn't going to come flying out at me, although at one point a little bit of it does, but that's why you wear a full face shield. And when I say came flying out at me, it didn't come flying out at me because I'm standing to the side, I'm not standing in line with the bowl. At this stage I wasn't sure if I'd be able to get a core from it or not, but really that it shouldn't determine the shaping. And actually I did go on at a very small measly core, as you'll see if you watch through to the end. So I've decided now that this is the top of the bowl, but I want to bring the top in a little to make it slightly closed. I think that helps if you're colouring the outside of a bowl, and that's the plan with this one. Because I said the next time I did a video of this burr, people have remarked on the lack of colour and inquired after my health, so I said I would put some colour on the next one. So using a parting tool now, just finalising the shape of a foot, and I think that's a little 1/2-inch spindle gouge, just tidying up the face of the foot there. So time to put it in the chuck, get the stem centre out, and see we go from there. Now what my plan is, so that I can hold it in the chuck and get completely to the bottom, is to tidy up the face and put a mounting point on the face, so that I can then rechuck it and turn the bottom properly. So getting the face tidied up now. There I am with my little 3/8 bowl gouge, little in comparison to the large one that I was using to begin with, and putting in a chucking point now with the parting tool. So turning it around now, and that will give me a very secure hold in the chuck, and then I can get the bottom sorted out properly. And there you can see that area there, the little bit of branch that was growing from there is detached off, so hopefully no more bits will come flying off. And because I'm not hindered by the tail stock anymore, I can really work on the shape of the bowl. So that's the main stage to do next, and then of course we'll sort out the surface finish. Now I have been having some troubles with my sound recording, so there's a voiceover, but I've kept some of the original sound in. You might hear a little whisper of my original soundtrack, but I'm hoping that I've sorted that problem out for the next video. So getting the bottom of the foot nicely trued up and putting a little centre mark in, which I sometimes forget to do, and that will help when I come to turn the foot off, help me centre it up on a large faceplate, but I'll just friction press it against. The joy of sanding comes next. I could have shown you all of the sanding, but you would have lost the will to live. Actually, I'm not doing it a disservice, because this burr sands very, very easily, very nicely. Then I want to get rid of all the dust, and yes, you can see the gloves are going on. It is time for colour. Now, my first choice of colour, and I'm using Chestnut Products Spirit Stains, was purple. I thought that would look quite distinguished. Actually, it didn't work as well as I wanted to. I think it obscured too much of the burr, although it works very nicely in these crumbly, flaky areas where the bark is. But as you know, I'm never content with just putting one coat of something on. After I'd let this dry off, I thought, well, I'll cut it back a little bit. I tried putting a second coat, and you can see that when there's a shine on, you do get the figure of the burr coming through. But I thought this just didn't really do enough to highlight it or to celebrate it. I'm still not entirely convinced that the final colour I came up with is one that I actually like either, but it's been received well by other people, so I'm prepared to see it through their eyes. But I think this purple really was just a bit too much considering the beauty of the wood underneath it. So you know what is going to be coming next. I'm sure you do. There we go, little sand, and it came off remarkably easily. So I was intending to leave a bit more of it behind. You can see in some of the more open parts of the figure that it has stayed, and I have kept it at the bottom, more to give a sort of definite shadow line at the part of the bowl, because I've gone for a lighter colour over the top. And one of the things to really consider when you're putting colouring on a piece of wood is the wood's colour itself, and how that affects the final colour of whatever you're putting on it. But again, it's a case of getting the sanding done, getting the dust off, and that little vacuum cleaner with little brush is ideal for this kind of thing. So it looks like I'm putting a light green on. It's actually Chestnut's blue stain, but because of the sort of yellowy browny colour of the wood itself, it's the colour of the stain. And I'm happier with this because I can see a lot more of the grain coming through. I didn't really want to obliterate it, and I might as well have sprayed it black. But there, you can see the difference in the colour between the blue on the cloth there and the blue on the wood. A definite sea greeny kind of colour going on there. So I think that's a bit better, but I want to build up the colour and have a bit more variety there. So I've sanded some of that back. You can see maybe about 30-40% is left. There were some swirl marks, so I've done a little bit of hand sanding, and then I've come back with yellow. And I think this, more than just the blue, green, whatever its name will be on its own, I think this helps to brighten it and shot more of the burr. And so overall I was happier with that as a colour. And clearly there was a funny thing going on with my editing as well, as you saw that little errant shot sneak in there. Now I'm putting cellulose sanding sealer on so that I can put melamine lacquer over the top. Melamine lacquer will dry more quickly, especially from the aerosol. It can dry enough to put another coat on in as little as 5 minutes. Obviously the drying time does depend upon the temperature in your workshop, but you can see how the shine really helps to lift not just the stain, but also we're getting to see the pattern in the wood coming through. While it's very matte and dull with just the dried stain on it, it does look a bit flat and lifeless. And I think this has really brings it to life.
By myself, when misery is taking sway, when no thinking seems to have found another way. Remember, never underestimate the power of trees. Trees love humans too. Never underestimate the power of trees. Trees love humans too.
So the closer in shots, you can really see how much pattern and life there is in that burr grain or burr figure.
And that's coat number 4.
Right, it's been on the lathe drying for over a week now, and that lacquer has given a very nice shine and sheen to it. So it's time to move on and reverse chuck it and get the inside turned out. Now I was wondering if I might be able to get a core from it. Not 100% certain. Oh, if I can find the right chuck key. Let's have a look. Okay. Now, were it not for this large lump missing here, I think I probably would be tempted to go for a core. The depth of it, 3 inches. It's going to be, by the time I've got a core out from there though, it's going to be really quite small. There is a little split there, which is a bit annoying. And the other thing I'm considering is I'm not too keen on the transition from the colour to the wood. So I'm thinking of doing a darker rim. There is a little bit of the purple left here, and purple is probably what I'm going to go for. And one of the reasons for that it might work is on this colour wheel, which I haven't taken out of its packet yet because I'm going to be taking some photographs of it for an article I'm writing, and I want to keep it pristine. They're pretty much opposite each other on the colour wheel. So a nice bit of contrast there, and I think it'll help step into the inside of the wood. But it might not. Right, let's get this in the chuck and enough waffling. I am going to core it. Now, I always err on the side of caution with these cores, it seems. Yeah, I could have definitely done a better job, but I've got something here that I can use for a later project. The top of a lid or something. The top of a lid? A lid. Right. Going to start round here and just one wipe. Not bad, one more. Now it's bled in a little into the sides here, but that's not going to be an unduly concern me. But I think when we get some wax or oil, haven't decided on the inside yet, the warmth of that is going to be a nice contrast as well against that purple. That's the plan. Right, that's tidied that area up very nicely. So just a bit more bulk needed out from the inside. My usual finishes, a bit of cut and polish, the luxury of 2 lathes. Take it away a little bit at a time. Just making sure I'm getting an undercut on there so that it'll sit flat on the table or whatever it's put on. And this is actually a nice little project, a little turning project to have a go at. And then a little smidgen of cut and polish going on. Now I'm going to have to get some of the dust out. I'm not so sure that I shouldn't have gone for something a bit shinier on that rim, but I think it does make a good contrast with the outside. So here we have it. I did say the next time I turned a piece of this Robinia Burr I would colour it, and colour it I have. It's not my favourite colour, but other people have liked it, so who am I to say it's rubbish? I'm glad somebody likes it, but I do think the natural wood is the most beautiful. I think the colouring, I might get away with it on this one because of the fact that you can see inside it through this void on the side there. But I'm not sure I'll colour the next piece. And on that bombshell, thanks for watching.